Medify and MedEntry are the two most popular question banks when it comes to UCAT preparation, and the most common question that I get in the comments is usually which of the two should I use. So here we're going to talk about the differences between the two and how they suit different individual needs so that you can decide based on which bucket you fall into, which one might be best suited to you. Now, when we look at the key features or the raw data, you can see that there are much of a muchness. Very similar number of questions to attempt, very similar number of marks and all the other stuff that goes with it. So really what I'm going to tell you is, from speaking to my students and my tutors, what are the kind of real world and kind of usability differences that people notice when they are using each of these resources to prepare for their exam. Another thing to bear in mind is the price, of course, because they can range from anything from Medify can be as low as £30 for just a few days access to £270 for maybe a full year, whereas MedEntry can be anything from £40 to £160. So small differences depending on how long you're having the access for. Now, they were both founded well over 10 years ago. MedEntry actually nearly 20 years ago now. Now, Medify is the UK-based one, whereas MedEntry is Australia-based, but they all serve Australia, New Zealand, and the UK. Now, the main difference between Australia and the UK when it comes to the UCAT is that it is a bit more competitive for the UCAT out there, so they do tend to have slightly higher grade inflation. That means that when we're going to talk about the usability a bit later, you'll see how that factors into how MedEntry is set up compared to Medify. So like I say, with the nitty-gritty stuff, we're going to look at things like usability, the number of questions, what the interface is like, and other things like apps and the way that they teach. So Medify has slightly more questions, but like I say, the numbers are so similar and they're beyond the 20,000 mark, so it doesn't matter much that they have a few more questions than MedEntry. They are still both very high in the number of questions that they have. One thing that my students say a lot about MedEntry is that it is better for verbal reasoning and situational judgment. That's because the questions are more similar to what they are actually like in the test, and people say that Medify, the passages tend to be much longer for VR, so they tend to be a little bit more difficult. However, when it comes to the remaining three sections, so that's decision making, abstract reasoning, and quantitative reasoning, it is said generally that Medify is more representative, so less difficult, whereas MedEntry is a little bit more difficult. Now again, that depends. Do you want something like Medify for this, which is closer to the real exam, or do you want something like MedEntry, which is harder than the exam, to kind of train you to a much more difficult level so that when you sit the real thing, you're maybe a bit more used to that level of difficulty? Now, other things people say are that Medify tend to have a better user interface. However, MedEntry have an app which is gamified and focuses on skills, which is kind of the vibe of MedEntry, that they're more skills focused. And finally, they say that Medify has more performance feedback. So the algorithms that they have in place based on what you answer will be slightly better at directing where you went wrong. But this is the number one thing that I would take away from this, is that I wouldn't necessarily pick one. You can maybe use a blend of the two. But the most important thing when it comes to feedback and when it comes to performance checking is it's really useful to have some proper one-on-one help. We can have these services, these web services that will help and will give you practice, but you also need a human there to help coach you with what's going right and what's going wrong to help you improve to that next level. Because we want to be getting a 3000 plus to take control, especially if you are a grad. It's so important. So it's really important to have a human there to help you. So if you'd like to find out exactly how you can do that and have help through the entire medical or dental school application process to optimize your chances of getting into your dream medical or dental school, I recommend that you check out this video here where we can show you exactly how we can help you get there. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you over in that video.